Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Seminars with Guests series of the Center of Advanced Studies on Southeastern Europe of the University of Rijeka. My name is Tana Prelec. I'm a fellow at the center and I will be chairing today's discussion. Special thanks to all of you really for joining us in these really troubling and dire times. I certainly understand that the minds of many of us are elsewhere and it's very difficult to keep focus these days and I admire all of those of you who do. But I also think that in times of such gravity, one act of resistance we can all do, aside from trying to help as much as we can and to keep calm and carry on, is to try to work on using our skills to try to propose plans and to improve our societies for a better and more inclusive future, for however small it may be. And that's why it gives me particular pleasure to welcome Lisa Marie Huffert today with us, who is joining us to present her work. Because indeed, the work that she's been doing goes to the core of trying to propose an alternative model of how we can do better as societies. So Lisa is an architect by background. She has studied for her bachelor's and master's degree program in architecture at the Georg Simon Ohm University of Technology in Nuremberg. And for her master thesis, she has worked on a geography that is very near and dear to us at the Center of Advanced Studies of Rijeka, which is the island of Cres, and specifically the town of Lubenice. She has based her research on over a decade of visits to the islands of Cres and Lubenice every year during the summer season, and that's how she got to know and to love Lubenice, which is a wonderful town. But at the same time also an almost abandoned town, a town that lives during the summer months, but it is made very vulnerable by depopulation. And so she has tackled this problem of the rural exodus and of the extinction of the older generation that leaves it as a settlement, as an uninhabited place for investors and planners. And using her architectural mind and this architectural lens, he has sought to propose a new model. So I think this is fully in line with the Center of Advanced Studies vocation of a proudly interdisciplinary center to propose and bring in voices from different disciplines, in this case, architecture. And I think it's especially exciting that we'll have the possibility to explore points of contact with other disciplines in the work that Lisa has been doing. So without further ado, I will now pass on to Lisa, who will present her work for about half an hour, and then we'll open the floor for questions and answers. Over to you, Lisa.
So thank you very much, Tina. Yeah, I'll show you my screen. 1 second. Okay, you can tell me if you can see it. Okay. So yeah, as Tina said, I started my master's thesis with the topic, or with the idea to do something for a little town called Lubenice on the island of Cres. As Tina already said, I know Lubenice since over 10 years, and I visited every year again. And by the time I saw the problem that more and more houses are broken and got destroyed by the time. And when it came to my idea or to the question what I could do in my master's thesis, I wanted to deal with the real problem. And maybe, I don't know if every one of you knows Lubenice, but I brought you a little video just for an impression. And I'll just show it you in the background. And yeah, so I wanted to deal with a real problem, and I started to think of this little town and of the rural exodus. And I wanted to develop a strategy which could enable revitalization of this little town. So 2 years ago in 2020, a friend of my family, he lives on Lubenice and works in the hotels of Rijeka, told us that there was the rumor of Russian investors who wants to plan a cable car from the town of Lubenice downwards to the beach we saw here at the beginning. And when I felt this, I thought this was just a rumor, because I never thought that this could be even possible to do something like this in a such an old place like Lubenice. And yeah, the reality showed me that it's really possible to do something like this. And when I started my research, I yeah, know the real actual problems Lubenice has to deal with and the people concerned has to deal with. So to the beginning, or in the beginning, I want to show you the structure of my master's thesis. The goal was to develop a strategy for a revitalization. And I wanted to base the strategy on 2 points, which are really important for me. One of these points is the local context. So to understand what we are talking about and to understand what is important for an architect or for a planner to develop something new. And based on the knowledge of the local context, you can actually understand the actual problems the people concerned have to deal with. And after this, I want to tell you something about the social context, which is the second point of my base to develop this strategy I made. And after this, I'll show you the strategy I came to, or the concept I came to, and what this concept could bring to the existing buildings, and for example, also a new building, but later to this. So first of all, the local context. I'll try to fly over it a little bit because I think if I tell everything, it will be really long. I could tell a lot of things about Lubenice, but yeah, why I do the social context in the beginning of my master's thesis is just the reason that I think it is necessary to know a place and to be able to identify it with it in a certain way to make a visual contribution to this place. And so this is the reason why I'll give you a short history overview over this whole topic, or over this this little town, and then also some urban observations, urban analysis about Lubenice. As Tina already said, Lubenice is placed on the island of Cres, better said on the northwestern side of Cres, with about 30 kilometers away from the main city of Cres. As you can see it already here, Lubenice is just reachable through one main street, which leads to the other street system, or to the other main streets of the island. As you already saw it in this little video and in this terrain section, Lubenice is a really special place, which is caused by the position it has. So you can see that Lubenice is placed on a about 400-meter high cliff with an overwhelming view over the Adriatic Sea. And since 2015, Lubenice, this is a real important point, is on the waiting list to become a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage. Yeah, here you can already see this beautiful town with a beautiful view over the Adriatic Sea, and this one main road which only leads to Lubenice and ends here. So a quick historical background. It is sadly not possible to give every part of the historic background due to the nature of the stony ground, which makes it hardly possible to identify all the layers that can archaeologically be exploited. But what you can say is that Lubenice is up to 4,000 years old and exists in Bronze Age, and in Roman times the place is called Hibernicia, which is translated from the Latin wintry and is caused by the strong winters in Lubenice, which are caused by the high altitude of the town. While the island was ruled by the Venetian, Lubenice was a settled fort with over 104 people. Lubenice was one of the three first settled places on the island of Cres. And while the 7th century, Lubenice changed its use from a port town to a settlement and got more compact. You can also see it on the cadastral plans. In the beginning of the 19th century, you can see that it became much more compact over the time, and here on the but you can also see that on the that the differences between the cadastral plan from the beginning of the 20th century to the 21st century, there's no longer any change to see. So you can see that Lubenice has its highest number of people who lived there in the 20th century, or in the beginning of the 20th century. There were up to 200 people, or a little bit more than 200 people who were living there. But during the 20th century, the population decreases steadily, and also not the connection to the electricity system, since the end of the 20th century, and also the telephone connection could make the people stay there. So at the end of the 20th century, there were only 29 people who lived there. A quick overview over some urban observations I did, which were necessary for me to create something for Lubenice, or in Lubenice, where I will show you in the next few slides. I'll take it short. So you can see that Lubenice has still 2 town gates existing. You can see them here, and also on the right side. I marked them in a black color. You can see the existing structure of the once needed protection wall on the east of Lubenice. During the time, Lubenice was no longer a fort town, and so they got rid of the need of this protection wall, and they used this wall structure for the outside walls of the new buildings they made during the time. Also, you can see I did a little observation of the urban structure. On the right side, you see that Lubenice is separated in 2 different types of buildings. You have once the single standing public buildings, which are mostly religious buildings like churches or chapels. And in the center of Lubenice, you have you have 3 agglomerations of residential buildings, which are really compact together. Over the time, there came also some public uses into the no longer residential buildings, because there were no longer people who lived in there. So the sheep breeding museum by the Rural Island Group, and also placed a space for exhibitions and workshops, came into one of the residential buildings. Also a little restaurant came to the ground floor and to the conobar, and also next to the single standing tower bell, which compares to the parish church, became a little tavern, which is used for public nowadays. So one thing that was also important for me was the bay system. You can see it on this plan pretty good. The 3 agglomerations of residential buildings built 2 main passages. You can also see it here. They lead from the south to the north, to the graveyard, in the back of Lubenice, the way, and everywhere there residential buildings will end a passage, a way for the people to walk through. They used the architectural style element of an evaluated passage, of an art passage. I will show you a picture later. So you can enable to walk through and to get through the backyards, which are more private. I also did much more analysis on it, but I'll skip through it. I also analyzed the heath development, and I also found a section for a house to see how the structure, or how the construction of the buildings is. You can say that there's that all of these houses have no thermal insulation. They are all massive outside walls. Here you can see the evaluated passage I talked about, and also something like the setting of the windows. They're also everywhere just small windows because of the cold wind, and because of the lack of thermal insulation, which caused the people just to make small and undirected windows. These are all style elements I used for me, or I need to know to create something new. That's why I'll show you this. After I did my my analysis of the local context and of the historical context, I tried to understand the actual problem. So I already told you that the extinction of generations made it impossible, or leads that the leads to that the descendants can't stay in Lubenice. Missing digitalization, a lack of infrastructure, and the extreme climatic conditions which are in Lubenice made it not possible for the descendants of the older generations to stay there. This causes the rural exodus, and this causes why Lubenice became more and more empty over the time, and why you can also see it here. Many of these houses are already destroyed by the time. So you can say that 2 years ago, there were only 2 people living in Lubenice permanently, so for the whole time of the year. And nowadays, I guess it's only 1 person, or I don't know if she doesn't even leave Lubenice in winter because it's too cold and she can't stay there because she's way too old to be alone in there. So the actual problem is that as a basis for the increase of tourism on the island, the county of the northern coastal region of Croatia considered a master plan just to develop tourism. And different studies, so they did different studies to find out potential tourist destinations, and they saw Lubenice as one of them. And so they started to make Lubenice into, to split Lubenice in 3 areas. So you have one area is the graveyard in the north of Lubenice, the town itself in the middle, and downwards they found a possible place to increase tourism as a possible camp. And in 2006, they put this plan. They included this plan in the spatial development plan of the town of Cres. So since 2006, the plan to do something with tourism in this area was known by the town of Cres. And in 2019, Cres planned together with the investors Fil Adria tourists and the architecture firm Arta Projektiarnje, they started to plan the Camp Lubenice project. And you can already see that there's a huge time difference, because in 2006 they made these plans for this camping project and for this tourist project, and in 2019 they came with Camp Lubenice. And Camp Lubenice shall offer accommodation for up to 200 tourists. You can already see it. This is Lubenice itself, the graveyard, and this is the area for the tourist camp. So the actuality is that they are planning this glamping project, which is a combination of the words glamorous and camping, for those who didn't know. And it shall be 50 individual bungalows in front of Lubenice, and also tents. And as I said, they want to bring up accommodation for up to 200 visitors. And additionally, they want to plan a little restaurant and a man-made water area and a playground and a store and something like this. And all of these new plannings, these bungalows, shall be prefabricated and shall be brought up to Lubenice, to this area, and shall be lifted up from the ground by pillars. And additionally to that, they have to make it car-free, so they have to plan parking lots in the surrounding landscape, and they want to transport the people in this glamping with electronic golf carts. And also, the mayor told me that they are really planning this cable car from Lubenice down to the beach, St. Ivan. It's pretty sad. I have all these plans. I talked to the architecture firm, but I'm not allowed to show it to you. I was just allowed to show it in my university, but as far as I go in public with it, I'm not allowed to show it. But there exists a video on YouTube where some people filmed this the presentation of the glamping project. And here I just made a screenshot for you to show you how they are planning these bungalows. And as you can see, they are completely different in their image, in their visual image, and in the looking than every house in Lubenice. Here on the ground, you can see how they plan to set these little bungalows in this area. yeah, additionally to that, they bought up to 8 houses, I think. They want to do a reuse with. So we're planning something like a cafe, public restrooms, a museum, a jewelry store, an art gallery, and something like this, all on the ground floor and in the Conova floor of these houses. And on the upper floors, they are planning apartments. The apartments are not for the people who used to live there or who has their relatives there or something like that. The apartments are just for the employees of the glamping. Yeah, and I try to sum up all the intentions of the different groups. So I separated it into the group of the initiators. So the town of Cres, Fil Adria, tourists, so the investors, and Arta, the architecture firm, and also the people concerned, like height of the cultural property, the locals who are interested in what happens to Lubenice. And the intentions of the initiators are just an upswing of tourism. It's sure, it's clear to see. They want to bring up to 20 to 30 new jobs, and talking, so the previous major of Cres was talking about preservation of the city through an active use. Goran Filipovic, who is the president of Fil Adria Tourist of the investment group, he speaks of an ecological camp which is fully integrated into the environment and which is designed for ecologically aware guests who care about the preservation of the nature and the natural balance of the surrounding landscape. I also talked to Martin Grigorovic, who's the actual mayor of the town of Cres, and I asked him how or if he can imagine why it's possible for some people that this camping project is not accepted very well. And he said that there's for him no rational reason to be against something like this camp. He said that the people maybe fear the investors because they all say they got their money from Moscow, so from Russia. But maybe it's also because some of them think that the investments they did in the cities of Cres and Lubin, so the hotels are too much or too big. But he sees this program, so this investment is not comparable, and you can't do anything like these hotels on Lubenice. So he doesn't understand why the people are against it that height. I thought that maybe the Russian roots of the investors are one part why the people worry about this investment, because it's known that Jadranka, so Fil Adria Tourist, was acquired in 2013 by an investment fund company owned by Russia's largest bank, and directly related to this is, I hope I pronounce it correctly, Mihailo Pavencevic. Okay, great. Who's a Croatian businessman with ties to the Russian government. And Kemmerer, he and his family took over the company and used obscure trusts to funnel funds from the Russian construction company Velestroy to Jadranka. And Pavencevic also is exposed a cost of fake real estate purchases and money laundering. So I think this is possible that this is a reason why they worry about this whole project, because no one knows where the money is really coming from and what they want to do with it. But I think it's not the main reason. I think the main reason why the people concerned are against this project is that the design and the scale do not justice to Lubenice's historical heritage. They fear that the cultural property and the transformation of the city and the surrounding landscapes by doing new streets, by doing parking lots, and by doing all of these things. So you have to touch the nature surrounded to Lubenice. And also one point for them is that the project won't bring no more permanent inhabitants to Lubenice. So they are not talking about revitalization of the city, just of money making by tourism. So I asked, for me, the question, how to prevent the extinction of a town using the example of the town of Lubenice through a strategic and architectural measures. So what is it? What represents an appropriate way of dealing with the actual problem occurring to the people constrained? And I started, as I said, to create a revitalization strategy based on research and investigation, because I think that the main reason why this project can't work out and has the people so much worried about it is because the investors didn't, or also the planners like Arta Projects didn't talk in any way to the people who are concerned. So they don't know what's important for them with having Lubenice as a cultural heritage. So I wanted to do it differently, and I started to go into the social context. I found a quote that for me fits perfectly into this situation. It says that an architect is neither a service provider nor an artist, and certainly not a moderator. The architect moves between a given set of rules and his freedom. What's important, after all, is the dialogue that an architect should enter into with the people. And as I said, I think this was one of the biggest things missing to make this project of the investors work. So as I said, I started to, I wanted to make it differently. So in the beginning of my master's thesis, I made a survey, and I had the great luck to get into a group chat of the people concerned. So I could give them this survey, and they answered me very helpful all of my questions, and they told me what they are worried about and what they think could be good for Lubenice and what they wish for Lubenice. And it was really helpful for me because I asked them a lot of questions which important for me to develop a strategy. And it also showed me that they think pretty realistic about this whole situation. So they don't think that it's possible to come with just a renovation of all the existing buildings and to make it possible with that to make people stay there for the whole year again. So they see that it's maybe not really possible to bring permanent resistance again to Lubenice, but it would be, or we wish for a reason to stay for a longer time in the year as just in the summertime, in the tourist time there. And as a last part of the survey, I already created like 4 different ideas for a basis for me for a possible concept. And I gave it to them, such as I said, little ideas to think about it and to give me a point where they can imagine, where they can say to me that they could imagine this idea of a revitalization strategy. And that these points included education and research, culture, commercial culture, and religion uses. And yeah, most of the people saw a use of education and research, or a strategy with education and research for a possible way to deal with the problem in Lubenice and to make this as a base of the concept. And this was for me the point to base on and to move on with this idea. And so I summed up for me all these facts and the most important things they told me, and what the most important things were that could deal with existing buildings and with a possible new building. So it was, for once, the desire of permanent resistance, but that they classified this realistically, so that they knew that it's hardly possible to do this, but they wish for it. Or, for example, one way that is more value is focused on the long-term tourism than on daily tourism, or that they think that the care of existing buildings is more important than designing something new. And these were all things for me I used to develop a strategy. And this is what I'll show you in the next slide. I came for me to the conclusion that the heat, the weather conditions, and the historical nature, religious relics, and the centuries-old culture of a place provide all the basis for science and education, which can be engaged in this old town. So I came to the idea that in this context, the cooperation with national and international universities or higher educated institutions could make Lubenice as a place of science by seminars, workshops, and independent researchers. And courses of study like astronomy, archaeology, architecture, art history, and all of this could find in Lubenice a place to do researches and work. And so I thought that existing and maybe also a new building should provide the space that is needed for that. And the visitors from these various fields of study can stay in Lubenice for a ranged period of time and could stay in the upper floors of the empty residential buildings. And especially worth mentioning for me was that were the times when Lubenice can be used in its new function, because both higher education institutions and universities run their teaching time during the winter and summer semesters, and thus this is outside of the vacation season. So this could be a reason for the people to come to Lubenice outside of the tourist season. And this led me to my design concept. First of all, it's loading. First of all, I started to deal with the existing buildings. So I watched the already bought up houses, and because they are mostly damaged and no longer in use, and they were already bought up. So I used this as the base of my design, and I started to put new uses into the ground floor and into the conobar floor for the public, like craft workshop, community rooms, seminar rooms, ateliers, a little grocery store, also visitor centers or a media lab, which can be used by the students and by the teachers or professors. In the upper floors, just like it's already have been used, can the people stay? So the upper floors have the accommodation for the visitors in it. The last part of my master's thesis was to design a new building. I want to say previously that in my eyes, it's not necessary to do something new, to build something new for Lubenice or directly in Lubenice or related to the town to revitalize it. I just think that a good concept in the context with the social and in the local context can revitalize Lubenice. For me, it was, I don't know how to say, it was fun, and it was a challenge to bring up something new, which can show and demonstrate that architecture can achieve a respectful and appropriate treatment of the social and architectural context. So I made it for me. I made a design for me, which is directly related to the town itself. And I'll show you. The new building I designed is for the public, educational, research, and administrative purpose. And it's placed, as I said, in the settlement itself as a contact point for the visitors. And I can give you a quick overview if you're interested. As I said, the decision that I put my new architecture as an injection into the settlement itself, and not to use this predicted area in front of Lubenice, is based on the attention of dealing with the innovations in the context of the existing structure. And due to its positioning, the design deals with the given. And I used, as I said, the old town relic, the old wall relicts of the protection wall were used as the outside walls, and I found one left wall relict in the east of Lubenice, and I used this as the contour of my new design. So to shape it and to use this wall also as the other new buildings were made as the outside wall of my design, and. This wall placed here in the southeast of the town is in between of two country yards. And by separating the shape I gave it, I will enable a connection of these two country yards to make it as a public or more public public yard, and to enable a walk through the town. I also played with the heave of the new building. I already said that I analyzed the heaves of the existing buildings, and they are not larger or not higher than two upper floors. And this is in the front side of my new building. I went downwards with one floor, and care is taken in this whole design to ensure that the new building does not block the view of the landscape to the east from any of the surrounding existing buildings. Yeah, here you can see in my section that the only thing that that my new design should bring up or should differ the building from the existing buildings is the heave of the building, so it can stand out a little bit from the others. And maybe I can say something. I also told you about the evaluated passages. I also used this design by splitting up or by separating my building in two pieces. I used this style element too for a connection to the existing buildings. Maybe I can tell you something about the uses which my building shall have. In the Conover floor, there shall be exhibition space for the result of the study researches. In the ground floor, there are in the separated left side the public restrooms, and in the ground floor is a little coffee and a workshop space to give a program to the two country yards. In the upper floors, there's only a seminar room and an atelier, and in the top floor, there's the administration head of the faculties and of the accommodations. So to the visual image, I found also an interesting quote that fits pretty good in this whole situation. Where there's a lack of aesthetics in many places, I see an aesthetics of lack in this place is shown. And I thought that that really fits into the situation, because also one point why the plans of the investors are not appreciated and are not accepted is the visual image of all of these new buildings, new bungalows. And I tried to do it differently, or I tried to show that it can be made differently. So the appearance of the building is for me most important to enable integration into the context. And yeah, here you can just see that the construction is also based on the material that you can find in the surrounding landscape, and it's just like stone and wood, as all the other houses are built of. And yeah, one important point for me was the setting of the windows. Just as you saw it before, they used in Lubenice just small sizes of windows, and they are not ordered in a strict way, in a directed way. And I wanted to adapt this style element to fit in the context. So yeah, and the following pictures are just some images I made for understanding what I did, and to show that it is possible to make something that can be integrated in the context. And for example, you can see here the backyard in the north, and the arched underpass. And this is already the last picture I want to show you, with a little bell tower in the background, and with my new building on the left side, which directly stays in the contact with all the existing buildings. Yeah, and by that I want to say thank you. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, you can ask me everything.
Lisa, thank you so much for this presentation. I mean, I think that I'm not the only one to be impressed. I see a lot of people clapping. I think, you know, the way that you have combined your skills of the people is quite remarkable, and the clarity of your work and of your presentation is well beyond anything I've ever seen in a master's thesis, and indeed, you know, on par with many PhD theses I would dare add. So perhaps just a couple of comments and of questions out there before moving it out to the public. So that somebody would.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Anna, you froze a bit. Just a sec.
Markulka, maybe you can just jump in to move forward, because this is extremely interesting and valuable.
Anna, yeah. Sorry, you froze a bit. Maybe you could try just turning off your screen, and then sure, maybe this would make the connection a bit easier.
I guess it doesn't work.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't. Okay, so let's...
Have I frozen up again? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will perhaps pass on to Sanya, and I will write my comments in the chat. Would that be okay? And Sanya can...
Sure.
No worries.
Sure.
Okay,
I think people will have reactions, and go ahead, please.
I will just, could you please stop sharing the screen, Lisa,
yeah,
so
sure,
that I can see the people? Thank you very much. Does maybe somebody have a comment or a question for Lisa? Thank you, Lisa, for a great talk and very, very interesting project. And I hope the things will go in a different direction. Are you maybe I can just sort of begin with the sort of question. Is this this sort of development plan with bungalows and everything and glamping, it is still something that's sort of going to happen? I mean, it hasn't sort of been stopped at any point.
I guess at the moment it stopped. I don't know if it completely stopped, but I think that the worries and the protests of the people concerned made it stop for a while. And this is also the reason why I can show you the plans, because they are yeah, not continuing actually, or starting to restructure this whole thing, because as I said, the protests of the people was big enough.
Great.
But it's also an actual problem. So I fear that they come through with this.
We have a question from Katarina.
Hi everyone, and first, sorry for no camera, but I have the flu, which surprise still exists after COVID. So first, thank you, Tena, for organizing, and thank you, Lisa, for such a wonderful presentation. This was super well researched and interesting. Really, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, and all I can say that I hope that something happens along your plans rather than a glamping with the cable car. Even saying that sounds wrong. But what I wanted to ask you is, in your research on kind of the historical context and also on the kind of the local perceptions, what did the people, what did the inhabitants, when there used to be a population that lived there throughout the year, what were they doing there? That would be my question. So what was it, a lot of sheep and agriculture, or what were the people doing there? Because I know you've mentioned yourself, one of the things that's working really well is the kind of the sheep herding museum. And I think it works well because it taps into this, cultural, but also economic heritage. So is there anything else that can be kind of excavated from this economic heritage of the place itself? And my second question, also, I don't know if you came across it, but what is the mood of the inhabitants towards the current tourism development? Because I know this would be adding, adding significantly with the glamping, but there is already a lot of tourism in Lubenice during the summer, from what I understand. So what is the current mood and kind of how do people perceive developments thus far, not only the future ones? But yeah, but thank you so much. This was really super interesting.
So to answer the second question, what they think about the current situation of the tourism, I think that they know that Lubenice, or that the apartments and that the restaurants in Lubenice live from tourism. So it is really important for them, and they accept it, and they like it that the people come to Lubenice and visit this beautiful place and appreciate it as the cultural heritage it is. There were also a lot of people who said that there's already too much day tourism, and that they wish for more tourism who stay, or for more people who stay into the apartments they offer in Lubenice itself. But yeah, as I said, I think that they know that all of these programs they offer are just working with the tourism. And yeah, the thing is that they just want to, or that just wish for a new usage and for a reason for the local people, for the local inhabitants to stay there for a longer time. And which is this fact is just directly related to tourism. So it can't be without the tourism, but it shall not be too much of it, and especially it shall not be too much for most of them of the day tourism, because this harms Lubenice for them more than the people who stay in the apartments for a longer time. The second, no, sorry, I forgot the first question.
It was about kind of the economic heritage of what people used to do in Lubenice while there were more people living there throughout the year. What were the occupations there then, and kind of what? Because I assume that tourism didn't really play a role.
Yeah, back in time, it didn't play a role. Back in time, it was what I read about it. Was a pretty simple life. So they had their sheep there, they had their agriculture there, and they had their landscape. They had to take care of, and this is how they come to food, and they all did it by themselves. And this was the way they spent their time. But they were working in the nature, and they were taking care of the cultural heritage, and this is what they did there. It was a pretty simple life, and they were absolutely happy with it, and they were absolutely completely also completed with this. And yeah, but this is maybe one reason that this art of this style of life is no longer possible, because that's the main problem. The lack of infrastructure, and just that Lubenice, the fact that Lubenice is hardly to reach through this one street makes it impossible for the people nowadays to stay there, because the life we have today is yeah, not that simple as it used to be back in time, and this is the problem the people nowadays have. But yeah, to answer your question, the life back in the days was just pretty simple, and they had everything they needed there.
Thank you. We can have Sandy, then I will read Tena's comment from the
just thank you. Just to add something to Lisa, what you said about how it was earlier. I don't know too much either, because I'm someone who regularly visits Lubenice. But in the 1990s, mid 1990s, there were still a lot of traces from economy of sheep breeding with sheep wool, which was at the time still probably in the socialist Yugoslavian system. Used quite a lot, and they exported wool. Actually, I remember it was to Eastern European countries to produce stuff. So there was even kind of a major kind of economical structure with the sheep wool. And after, of course, when the war happened and Croatia, I don't think could continue this. I mean, these lines of providing wool to other countries stopped completely, and then it really became kind of a very local, self-sufficient population. But before that, there was some kind of economy which was bigger than just self-providing, what we've seen then in the 90s, 2000s at the end.
Thank you. That's very interesting. That's also something that could be a sort of like a topic for a whole other research, or a little like a museum at Lubenice, I think. So I'll read the TENAS questions. First, she says, from an urban impact perspective, what do you think are the clearly adverse impacts? And do you think there is anything positive that might be saved and used for good ends? For example, the idea of a car-free road. So this is the first question for Lisa. And the second is, Dana says, I loved your quote that laid down the idea of a dialogue an architect should enter with the people. And how the lack of this dialogue is at the center of the issues in the current plan of Lubenice. There are other projects in geographies near and far that could be said to operate along similar fault lines. For example, Belgrade waterfront in Belgrade, which has also attracted a lot of grassroots opposition, I'm sorry. I was wondering if other fellows participants have thoughts about similar or different projects and what the problems and solutions were in those cases.
So to answer the first question of the impact of the perspective, what I think that is good and what is bad at this of this project, I think the really thing that they messed up in my opinion, is, as I said, the dialogue. I think, just to answer both questions at the same time, the fact that they saw that they have to do something for Lubenice and that they have to increase, for example, tourism, and they have to do something new. Also, like a car-free transport or something like this is pretty good, and it's I think it's a really, really good chance that there are investors who want to do something for this little town. But I think the most negative about this project is that it was something they did absolutely separated. They did it completely by themselves, and they didn't tell the people constrained anything about it, and they just found out about it through a presentation which was organized by the Rural Island Group, and which was held on the old schoolhouse in Lubenice. And yeah, they presented the plans I showed you in this of the screenshot of the video. They presented them this fully developed plan, and I think that's the failure they made with it. If they said that they started the planning for this predicted area for this tourist camp, and they came into the dialogue. The people want to do something new, and the people want to care about the problems Lubenice has, and I think that they were absolutely into it to create something together. But I think that's the most problem, that they just had no dialogue between these two interest groups. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Does maybe somebody else have a question, or maybe the sort of comment along the lines that Stena sort of indicated about this developments which sort of emerge from the lack of dialogue with the population, with people and the community concerned?
Maybe again, I dare to
Yes.
add, because I've experienced this process quite closely in Lubenice. I think also that there is no kind of united opinion of the people, or a unity. I mean, one has to imagine that all of them have sold their houses to these investors, you know, and so they can be seen to make it a bit dramatic by the others as traitors, and they probably don't say much about what's going on as they've just sold houses. And the other thing is that I don't believe, I mean, the density of people is gone that low that this, in 2006, when the camping was published for the first time as the idea of the development of Lubenice, then there would have been enough people to kind of form a citizen group to fight it or collaborate or whatever to find a solution. But now there's no one left in the village. Actually, some people live in the neighbor village of Walloon or in the area, but the density of this group is just quite low, and the energy to stand up and discuss it, also probably the trust that you can change things, I don't feel it's very high. It's seen as a big power and authority coming from outside being put on it. So the few people, the little group that's been built, I mean, it exists, this group, but there's not really a trust, I think, in themselves that they could probably change things, because they see it's all about power and money at the end. I see these problems there a bit. So it's also a question of a democratic structure of the basic society, which would have to be discussed. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I see. I completely, of course, agree with this. That it's the issue of democracy. I mean, of the sort of self-governance. I was also wondering if I could just also add another question. Sort of, well, as you say, that the density of a population of Lubenice themselves is sort of steadily declining. It appears. Are there sort of, do the people of like the population of the island have something to, you know, are they sort of involved in this process? Because this is something that will presumably not only influence Lubenice, it will also influence sort of, it will have a sort of spillover effect on Cres itself. So was there only the sort of action of Lubenice residents, or was there sort of an organized action of Cres population as well? There was. Mm-hmm.
So there were people. There were not just people from Lubenice itself, or inhabitants or people who have residents or buildings in Lubenice as a leftover. There were also people who live in Cres, or most of the people are no longer directly related to Lubenice. So there is a group. It's the Gerbian. Sunny, could you help me? Gerbian Local Society. Is this correct?
Yes, I think that's correct. Yeah, it's a yeah.
Yeah, these are the people concerned. I stayed in contact with, and I asked all these questions I did in my survey, and they told me that they were from like Cres, like from Rijeka or from Walloon or something like that, and it's not just as Sandy said. The problem is just that that they have not enough energy, and I guess also not enough own ideas to develop something completely new, to stand up against these investors, or these huge investors, and also in combination with the town of Cres. But to answer your question, it's not just people directly concerned to Lubenice. There are a lot of more people who are interested in the future of this town.
Yeah, it's often relatives actually from people who lived there, who have a certain interest, who know the village or remember it from their childhood days when they grew up there, this kind of people, but there's really not people living there. What I find interesting also to add to this, but again, it's a question of energy. I think if we would look Europe-wide or even worldwide, how many people know about the situation in Lubenice? It's quite a number, because there are these tourists, I can count myself being one of them, who regularly come to Lubenice and spend a certain amount of time there and really respect the situation, used to know all the people personally. So there would be an abstract virtual group of many people, like also Lisa is one of them. We all know a lot about Lubenice, but this group is not organized. I mean, it would be probably, I don't know if there are other examples to reinforce that local group. We should kind of put everybody together who really knows the situation. I think there's dozens, if not hundreds of people who would be very keen to give their knowledge, give their interest, and to return every year to Lubenice. I'm always surprised how many there are. And these are probably the kind of people, yeah, that would also, as tourists, make sense in the village, because they really don't come as day tourists and leave their garbage there, but they understand the village. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. Sort of, in a sense, I haven't heard of that kind of action from people who are sort of tourists, but this sort of regular. It's not even tourism. There should be another word for this. It's between sort of tourist and resident, who sort of organize and exert some influence on the local governance. That would be a sort of very interesting phenomena that I haven't heard of yet, actually. Also, Valeria has a question, wrote a question in the chat, so I will just read it for you. She says, thank you for sharing your knowledge on Lubenice. I wonder about the limits of dialogue when the interests between different stakeholders are different. In the UK context, for instance, there is quite some cosmetic use of consultations, but in the end, the developers are not obliged to modify their projects to incorporate other necessities and wishes. It would be great to explore other models of governance that bring the process of consultation to next step. Thanks, Valeria. Thank you, Valeria, for your comment. And that's true. The consultation tends not to be sort of binding in any relevant sense. It can be just sort of, this is participation washing, I would call it.
Yeah, I also did this. I also did an analysis of two different models of revitalization projects of little villages in Switzerland, and there was one of them working out and one of them not really working out. The reason for that was one of the concepts was to make the town to a despite hotel. So the private people can offer their own houses, their own rooms for accommodation for tourists. And in the center, they renovated an old hotel to something new and to something. They made it really modern. And this project failed because also there was a lack of dialogue, and the people started to offer the accommodations private and not via this concept of this of the center hotel, which makes the administration point of this whole project. And this didn't go out very well, and they ended up also in selling this whole project again to the public. And the other one was they had an architect who lived in this little village, and he also saw that the rural exodus came to this village in Switzerland, and so they also planned to do or to build new houses and new kind of hotels and new accommodations for the people, and also new private houses, just to make it a new overlook over this whole village, or to give it a new look. And this worked out very well, but the difference is that the Switzerland has the money for this. They gave them the money to realize this project and these ideas, and even if it worked out or if it not worked out, they had the possibility to do this. So I think the problem here is that you can't just can come up with a concept and say it would be great to do this. So you have to find someone who investigates in all these ideas.
Thank you. We are already sort of moved more than an hour. If there are any sort of any other questions or comments, and if not, I think we can.
Sorry, I think Valeria had the question in the comments in the chat, and I think Dana as well.
Okay, sorry. Yes. Okay, Valeria, we discussed her, and Dana, do you want to try try saying it?
I can try. If it gets frozen, you can take over. Yeah, I was just I'm really very impressed by Sandy's great comments, and also the fact that Marion basically just proved Sandy's point immediately afterwards in the chat, meaning that it's not only about a very small community. It's about a wider community of interested people, and I think making this point allows us to challenge this trope that it's only a deserted village, it doesn't interest anybody, and therefore we need to give in to this capital coming from shady circumstances, and to redevelop the village. So that was the main idea that I wanted to say. And perhaps to add, if I can, if the gods of the internet allow me, that this reticence by the locals to accept this basically investment coming from Kremlin-connected actors becomes clear in a very stark way now why this is problematic, right? Why it's problematic to simply, without question, integrate our economy with and allow the field for actors who have made money in such a way, who are clearly connected with the Kremlin, to operate and therefore legitimate their affairs through our economies. This applies to Croatia, but also applies to Germany and to Switzerland, UK, and so forth. Even more important and valid argument for being discussed further. So thank you once again for your presentation and your engagement.
Thank you, Dana. I think we got everything. Okay. Thank you very much once again, Dana and Lisa. And thank you everybody for your questions. Thank you, Sandy, for your questions and comments a lot. And see you all in Cres, in Moise, hopefully, and also in Lubenice, hopefully. And I really hope I love this idea of a diaspora connecting to sort of influence Lubenice development. So I hope this will, there will be a future to this. Thank you everybody very much. Our next seminar is on the usual time, on Thursdays, Thursday at noon. So see you next Thursday. Thank you everybody. Have a great day. Take care.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.